Hey guys, I'm Ivo. Welcome back to the Insole Skate Shop YouTube channel. In this video I'll tell you ways to prevent yourself from having blisters on inline skates. One solution for having blisters, because there's multiple causes and there's also multiple possible solutions for this. So if you're having blisters, it's gonna be a little bit of an experimentation. You have to try probably a couple of things before you can solve it. If we take apart the reasons for having blisters, there's 4 of them. One of them is because your skin is just too soft and too weak. The other is because there's a lot of friction and movement in your skate. One other reason is because there's moist and it's a little bit wet. And the 4th reason is because there are specific pressure points. Let's break them all down and see what solutions there are. Well, maybe the easiest one to tackle at first is little specific pressure points, like having a low sock instead of a high sock. Sock should always be as high as a skate. So you should have your sock come above the level of the skate. And if you have those low socks, then that edge creates a little bit of a pressure point. Another very obvious pressure point is if you have like an ankle bracelet in your skate. Maybe sounds really stupid, but I have actually seen this by students who complain about their ankles hurting, and then I find out that there's an ankle bracelet in the skate. So these are 2 really obvious things that I just want to get out of the way before we really dive into it. So the first topic is movement of the skate, and to prevent that there's a couple of things that we can do. The first and the most easiest thing to do is just to tighten it really hard. Tighten the laces and tighten the buckle. We have a special lacing technique that I like to promote. You can find it in our YouTube shorts. With that lacing technique, you can lace your laces really tight so that your ankle sits locked in your skate. If there's no movement, there's no friction, and there's no blisters. Sometimes skates are just too big, however, so then you need to downsize. Downsizing skate means basically getting a size smaller. Of course, then you need to buy new skates, so maybe you don't want to do that. A good alternative to downsizing is just to fill up your skate as much as possible. And you can do that with, for example, a thicker liner. Some liners are super thin, some liners are a bit thicker. We have in the specs on thisisole.com, our website, listed how thick the liners are. So you can actually select the liners in their thickness. Another thing that you can do to make the skate a little bit thicker is to put in a footie. More about that later in this video. You can put on thicker socks, of course. And there's also one more way that I want to show you is if you grab a skate and you take out the liner, you can sometimes wrap some extra foam around the liner and maybe you stick it on. This is actually some Velcro here. So you can stick any like hook and loop system on it and it stays on it. But otherwise, maybe you can improvise something. But there's also, it's called a butterfly. So that's an extra wrap that's supposed to go on this liner. Most of the MyFit liners and the Intuition liners have that ability to have a wrap where you then create a little bit more of a thickness so that you have a little bit less movement in your skate. So those are ways to tighten your skate. Now let's move on to the next subject, and that is the thickness of your skin. And one really good way to make your skin a little bit more resilient is just to keep on trying it again. Maybe you have blisters the first time, but then once they're healed, like 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, you try again, and maybe then you can skate like 45 minutes, but before you got blisters after like a half hour. And then maybe like the next time you can skate for an hour. Let your skin toughen up a little bit. Just like this part of your hand is much more thicker than this part of your hands because you actually use the inside of your hand. That's how your foot will also just create more thickness of the skin and more resilience to blisters. So don't give up on skating just because you have one-time blisters. Just keep on trying and maybe it will get better by itself. Next topic is moist. If there's friction and there's water, in other words, sweat, in your skate, that will create like an even softer skin because the moist will like open up your skin a little bit and then that will create blisters. So if you're a person that sweats a lot, maybe you can move to Amsterdam because it's actually really cold here right now and then you sweat less. So that's good. Maybe skate at night, that's maybe a good tip. But all jokes aside, you want to have the moist in your foot be carried away, your sock kind of like keeps that moist around your foot. And that moist will then create a softer skin that will create blisters. If you have a cotton sock, the cotton sock really holds your sweat around your foot and will create problems. If you have like synthetic socks, the synthetic socks are hydrophobic. That means they will push out the water away from your foot actually and into the rest of the liner. Your liner might start to smell, but your foot will keep dry. So that's the most important part. Those socks need to be really tight. So the tighter your socks are and the more they hold it, the better they work. And then if the material is good, it pushes the water outside. So let's look into some of the socks that we have and look at the material of these socks. I'm also gonna list all the materials of the socks on our website, thisissole.com. So if you really wanna dive into it, then you can see specifically for each of these models what materials they are. And then you should use synthetic materials like nylon or polyester or something synthetic like that. Those are the best. Let's look at some of the socks here, what materials they're made of. This one is 40% polyamide. That is synthetic, and then 40% cotton. So that's a little bit of both, but at least these socks are really tight. Since there's still cotton inside and cotton is not hydrophobic, at least they probably work half better than a full cotton sock, but I'm not sure if it's mixed, if that's just as good. This one is 80% cotton and 15% or 20% synthetic. This one, for example, the racing socks from MyFit also have like a dry text. So that's a good signal. And then if you read it, it's all synthetic. So these ones are actually designed to prevent blisters more than others, I think. It's interesting to see what the materials of the socks are and how they affect your blisters. If you have a blister problem, starting with the socks is really the way to go, I think. You should look at any blister or foot problems like this from the inside out. So first we look at the socks, then we're gonna look at the insole, later we're gonna look at the liner, and then only then we're gonna look at the skate. Here's a power slide next, and the insole is actually really high here, and also on the outside here. And we have a lot of people coming in the store with blister problems. And then if we just like change the insole, the blister problems goes away, because actually the blister is caused by this little edge rubbing in their foot. And if it's like sits a little bit like this in their foot, this wear and what's happening right now, this friction here, this will cause a blister after a while. If you're just doing this, this will probably cause a blister in my hand as well if I just keep doing this. So sometimes just take a look at your insole. If it's not like a nice and flat insole and it has like these upstanding edges here, it might be worth it just to change it, if that's where your problems are at least. Regarding insoles, we also have like custom made insoles. This is the Superfeet Fit Pod, so we can make a custom insole for you, and then your foot is also locked into the correct position. If your foot is locked into the correct position, because your foot can be like this and it can be locked like this. If it's like this, it's way more solid and stiff. If your foot is like this, it's way more like able to move. And the Superfeet insoles, better than any insole that I know, lock your foot into a specific position. And if it's locked, it cannot move a lot. And if it cannot move, you don't have blisters, because blisters are caused by movement. So sometimes even upgrading your insole to a Superfeet one, we have of course the custom Superfeets, and we have the stock Superfeets. This can sometimes prevent blisters. All right, that's the insole topic. Then next we're gonna move on to the liners. Here you can see some liners. There are intuition liners, and these are liners that are really seamless, so there's no like edges on the inside. And a lot of times when people upgrade to intuition liners, it solves just a lot of their pressure points or like any foot problems that they have. It's a really hard liner, which is a little bit counterintuitive, because liners are supposed to be comfortable, and how can something that's hard be comfortable? That's kind of like the train of thought that people have. But if the material is shaped in the right shape, then it can be hard and still be comfortable. Just like if you have a cast around your arm, for example, it's also pretty hard, but it's also comfortable. So a softness of a liner is actually kind of like a cheap workaround in having the right shape, because a well-developed liner is really ergonomically, and then if it's proper design, then it's allowed to be harder. Take a look inside your liner, because sometimes the blister problems come really from the liner. I'm gonna look for a skate to show you this, that inside the liner sometimes there can be a problem. Here, I'm gonna grab one from the wall, take the liner out and see if I can show you this problem. So there are different thickness of the foam on the inside, and here is a especially thicker part of this liner, and this sometimes creates a pressure point. So where the materials are in the liner is really important, and if it's not designed properly, then it can create friction. One thing that we can do with liners is we can heat mold them, even if they don't say they're heat moldable, like my fit liners or intuition liners. They really announce that they're heat moldable, so they advertise with it. But even if a liner is not like advertised as being heat moldable, you can still put it in the oven and it still makes it more moldable, because it's then hot, and hot materials are just more fluent. And then we can use a tool to stamp out any pressure points in the liner. So we really like put a clamp on it, and then kind of like make the thicker part thinner for you, if that's what you want, so that you don't have specific pressure points. There's a couple of spots on the foot where people can have blisters. Let me show you that. I'm gonna sit here and show you when I'm taking my shoe off. So blisters usually occur on the ankle here. So over here is the navicular bone. I'm not sure if I say this correctly. This bone is not sticking out for me, but for some people, I think it's like about 1 in 10 or 1 in 5 people or something, it sticks out here. And if it does, then this is often like a pressure point for people. And this navicular bone really coincides with the bad designed liner, because sometimes there's like a little bit of an edge. So there's in the liner, there's a thicker part, there's more padding here and there's less padding there. And then because there's like a cut off in the padding exactly at this spot, that creates like a specific pressure point sometimes. So if you have issues at your navicular bone here, then sometimes changing the liner can be a solution. One other place that people have blisters is here on the edge, or on the outer edge, and that's then because of the insoles. One common solution that people try when they have blisters is to put on a footie. There's a couple of brands that make them. There's Easy Fit, there's My Fit, and Rollerblade also has them. We of course sell them all in our stores. We have a store in Amsterdam and in Berlin, and on thisisole.com. There's a couple of different editions. So this is a footie. It's called a footie because you put your foot in it, and there's different thicknesses. Usually like a 1 millimeter of thickness is already enough. Just having this like really tight thing around your ankle already does a lot, because it prevents the friction to be on your ankle directly. It can also relieve pressure points, and it also fills up the skate a little bit. So there's like 3 reasons why this might be a good solution for you. In general, these things are super tight, so I would maybe advise you to get one size bigger than that's advertised, because otherwise they may be too tight, but they're also meant to be tight, so maybe you just have to suck it up. With these ones, the pressure point on your ankle is resolved, so that's nice. But if you have a pressure point on your navicular bone, then maybe this one is not in the right position. And then we have one from the Easy Fit brand, and the Easy Fit brand is just like a sock. So this is only around the ankle, and the Easy Fit brand has one that's like completely covering your toes as well and everything. Depending on where the spot is that you have your blister, something like this can actually work. Like I said, you have to look at the problem from the inside out. Maybe first try on not to have like an ankle bracelet, tightening your skate, changing the socks, putting on a footie, then maybe change the liner. And then the last thing that we do as a solution is boot fitting. And boot fitting is super interesting to me. There's a lot of knowledge in the ski world. And I actually took an internship at a ski boot fitter. So that was super interesting because I learned so much from that guy. I'm not a certified boot fitter, but I learned his trade. So, and he definitely is a certified boot fitter. So I have the feeling that I kind of know what I'm doing now because I already helped tons of people here in the store with this boot fitting problem. And what they do in skiing, it's super normal to just punch out pressure points in the plastic. And for the longest time, I didn't even know that that was possible for an inline skate. But any plastic hard boot and any carbon boot, all of them are heat moldable. And we have special boot fitting tools where we can just punch out specific points. So there's techniques for me to know where your pressure point is so that I know that I'm going to punch out at the right place. If you keep on having pressure points like that, and those pressure points are causing blisters, then that's one of the last solutions that there are, is to just like create a little bit of a bulge in the plastic, stamp it out a little bit so that the pressure point is relieved and that the blisters will then hopefully disappear. This is usually if you have pressure points on the ankle or the navicular bone. Anywhere else in the foot, maybe that this not a good solution for. But if those are your problems, then we offer this in Amsterdam. And we're happy to invite you here at the shop, of course, if you want to get some skates. We have all the skates are on the market. We have all the socks. We're like an inline skate specialty store. We don't even sell roller skates or scooters or anything like that. We only focus on inline skating and growing the community. We do that as well with making content like this. We do events. Of course, we make a new video every week. So if you like content like this, subscribe to the channel and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.